Yep. Given how things go, I'm just going to give it another minute or so.
Hello, Lisa.
Okay, let's call to order this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. It's March 3rd in the year 2022. It is 7:31 p.m. Tracy, could we have a roll call vote? A roll call, please.
Okay. Director Boyd?
Here.
Director Decker?
Here.
Director Harvey?
Here.
Director Lewin?
I guess that was me.
Director Snyder Carter?
Yes, here.
Okay, so all present and accounted for. Let's see. Well, I've got a president's statement tonight. I'm gonna start by thanking everyone for being water wise. Our district and the people in it have been just some of the best, most responsible water users in the area, and that helps a lot. We are still in an extended drought. We don't know how long it'll go, so being water wise is always good. And speaking of wise, notice today there's an article and an editorial in the Half Moon Wave Review, and it speaks to an issue. It speaks to an issue that the board has been dealing with for some time. Last year, a complaint was brought to the board under the California Voting Rights Act, and the nature of the act is. I'm sorry, I'm hearing noise and feedback. The nature of the act is such that historically there have been groups of people that have been underrepresented, and that often has to do with the manner in which elections are conducted, or the manner in which whether it's district voting or at-large voting. Our district, as most of the districts around us, had been at large for ever since the inception. Our community is rather small, as everyone in the community knows, and the notion of districts is a little unusual for a district this size. Several people on the board, and people who are no longer on the board, and people who have stood for a seat on the board have knocked the doors of all the voters in the entire district. So the ability to reach voters when you're standing for election has not been out of reach. But the California Voting Rights Act is structured in a way that any agency that feels like individual districts might not result in better representation, there's really, it's written for larger agencies. It's not really written with the smaller agencies in mind. So when we were confronted with this complaint, we needed to take a minute to take a good hard look at it. And after careful thought and speaking with a number of experts, we came to the conclusion that, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and do the districts. And when it came time to take the complaint, which had been brought to us in the form of a letter from a law firm, we sought court supervision for working out our agreement with them, which is totally normal. The Half Moon Wave Review article even mentioned that. But the reason I'm going into all this is twofold. One, we've been having citizen academies to help the public learn how it works, what the board is, how one runs for the board, what the duties of board members are, how the agency itself works, how the different parts of the facilities of the agency work. We've been doing a lot of outreach and education, and we have made direct appeals, and will continue to do this for interested parties. Come forward to our general manager, come forward to any or all of us on the board. We're eager to have more involvement and making information and opportunity available. And moving to district elections will provide yet more opportunity. The editorial seems to not comprehend what agencies are faced with when brought CVRA, California Voting Rights Act complaints. Seems to be completely devoid of any knowledge of our outreach with our academies and appeal to members of the community to step up and consider serving, and tried to cast it as some ridiculous waste of money. But it's very disappointing, and it's a surprising departure from any kind of journalistic principles. And so I wanted to make that my statement tonight, that it's perfectly fine for members of the public, members of the press to weigh in and talk about, outright criticize what we're doing. That's fine. That's all part of what we signed up for. But it wouldn't hurt at all for members of the press who want to weigh in on this kind of matter to give us a call ahead of time before they publish. Seek some comment. It's been a very long time since I've had the review call me, but they talk about us a fair bit. It's like, we're here, we're available, invite the outreach, and phone calls after the fact aren't good journalism. Phone calls before is how you get the context. You check your facts, and maybe you get something extra good to add to what it is you're writing. So with that, thank you for letting me air that out. Let's go to oral comments for anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have anyone with oral comments for something not on the agenda?
Scott, if I may, I'd like to add the fact that this is a flat rate kind of thing. Lawyers get $30,000 for each letter. We negotiated it down to $8,000, thereby saving the district $22,000. And there is no appeal on this. You're dead.
Yeah. That's the part of the benefit of the court supervision on closing the matter out.
Mm-hmm. That wasn't mentioned, by the way.
Well, but yeah. There's so much more I want to say, but we can go into that another time. Okay. Well, not seeing any. Oh, I see a hand, Catherine.
Just one small detail, and that is we have been making an effort to involve the folks in our district for a long time, and our Citizens Academy was started and planned prior to this California Voting Rights Act. It was, in fact, an initiative of the board and the manager, because we think it's very important. Many of us several of us having served in some other government positions, all of us having worked on volunteer committees, and we all understand the deep importance of having folks who understand the community and need to be involved in the everyday decisions on the board, whether they are board members or not. A board works for its citizens, and our citizens tell us what we need to do, not the other way around. Thanks.
Okay. So let's move then to the consent agenda. Do any board members wish to pull any items for discussion? If not, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Rick with the motion and Catherine with the second on the consent agenda as listed in the agenda, all 10 items. Tracy, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Lawman?
Yes.
Director Slater-Carter?
Of course, yes.
Okay, the consent agenda passes 5-0. Thank you. We have no old business. We have 3 items of new business. Let's go to item 1, review and possible action concerning remote meetings during emergency conditions under Government Code Section 54953 of the Brown Act.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, this is the item that we approve every first meeting of the month since now about 6 months. That allows us to hold these meetings via Zoom, so allows us to meet remote. And our suggestion is to also consider this month to approve that resolution and continue meeting remotely, at least for the second meeting this month and also for the first meeting next month. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the Board of Directors under Government Code Section 54953 of the Brown Act during existence of state of emergency conditions related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Do we have any comments, questions?
I'll make a motion to.
I see a hand, Michelle Dragony.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that there was an AB 1944 that was going out, and it's to, remember when you guys are talking about coming to your house? They're gonna not make you guys do that anymore, so you might wanna look that one up.
Thank you. I did look that up. I think you mentioned this at the SAM meeting, and I looked it up straight away.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
It's a very interesting read. Thank you for bringing it to our attention again tonight.
You're welcome.
I actually didn't finish out. Catherine had a motion. Did we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so I see Peter with a second. I see Rick with a hand. Just
Nope.
didn't quite get under
That
the
was
wire
the
in
second.
time.
That was the third.
Okay. So Tracy, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yep.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution is approved by a vote of 5-0. Item 2, review and possible action concerning water main extension agreement for new service connection at 25 Bernal Avenue, Moss Beach.
Yeah, thank you. So we have an application for a new service connection at 25 Bernal Avenue in Moss Beach. It requires a 12-foot mainline extension from the existing main in Bernal. And so we are suggesting to adopt the resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District approving a main extension and authorizing the execution of the agreement for construction and acquisition of water main extension for the new water service connection project at 25 Bernal under the conditions that the applicant will provide proof of insurance, payment bond, and faithful performance bond in order to fully execute the agreement prior to construction of the water main. So our standard procedure should be applied here. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any comments or discussion or questions? I see Catherine.
This is, Seal Cove is an area that is prone to water line and sewer line failures, mains and service connections. Have there been any in the, say, 200 feet of this particular house? Because I'm wondering if we should maybe look at some more advanced engineering to protect against those kinds of things.
Yeah, thank you for the great question, Catherine. So there is indeed a fault line that runs through Seal Cove, major fault line. We see a number of fault lines actually in the district. This particular house is, let me say, it's close to a fault line. However, we have not seen, unlike in other areas of Seal Cove, it's actually not seismic activity that we're seeing there in the other areas, but we're seeing a slippage that occurs along that fault line out there. But that's in other areas. That's in the area of Park Street, Los Baños Street, and Le Grand. So that's quite a big distance away from the area of the Bernal section. So we don't experience any mainline failures due to the active slippage that we see in other areas. So to answer your question, in the 15 years that I'm here, we have not experienced a mainline failure on Bernal. There may have been, a blown saddle or something rusted out that I don't recall, but no seismic activity as such.
Thank you.
Does it answer your question? Yes.
So I have a question, and that is, so who makes the decision about whether or not a mainland extension is required?
Well, our code requires mainline frontage. So any property that builds or any property that is being developed needs to either extend the main line or bring the main line up to current code if it's substandard.
So the extent, the length and the diameter, these decisions are made by who?
So ultimately by our engineer, but the length is determined through the code. So full mainline frontage means essentially that the property needs along its public right of way needs to have a main line for the entire length of the property.
Okay. And then just one last question, and you said at the outset that this is standard, but for people who are watching, I want to make sure to ask these questions because some of this is it doesn't come up that often, and it may not be really apparent at first blush how this works. The cost of this. I don't see Greg here tonight, but he's always asking us questions about who bears the cost. And so in this case, the cost is borne by the applicant.
Yes. So the developer, the applicant has to pay for any improvements that are really required to serve the property.
Okay. And that includes the engineering work and the construction and the finaling and all that kind of stuff?
Yes. So the mainline extensions are designed by the applicant's engineer in accordance with our standard specifications. And our engineer is reviewing the work that's being done by the applicant's engineer into ensuring that this is all conform with our standard specifications. And so we actually ask the local contractors that have the authorization to work on our pipelines for a quote for the work, turn around and submit those quotes to the applicant. The cheapest quote, usually the cheapest quote, is then essentially selected. The applicant pays the district those funds, and the district then hires the contractor to do the work.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. That's good background. Catherine, your hand is still up. Did you have more?
It is. I just wanted to clarify that it's, I believe it's in the staff report that after the line is installed, our crews inspect it to make sure it meets our engineering standards. And then we accept the main into our network. So it adds to the value of the district, but as a result of that, we then maintain that line in perpetuity. That said, the old main lines wore out a lot sooner than these newer materials, and these are much more stable and sturdy. So it is a benefit to the district in some ways to take this on, and it works both for the person who's building the home and for the district. It's a mutual benefit.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further questions, discussion? If not, the recommendation in front of us is to adopt, I'm just going to read this, adopt the resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District approving a main extension and authorizing execution of agreement for construction and acquisition of water main extension for the new water service connection project at 25 Bernal Avenue, Moss Beach, APN 037278070, under the conditions that the applicant will provide proof of insurance, payment bond, and faithful performance bond in order to fully execute the agreement prior to construction of the water main. Can I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Motion
second.
from Rick and a second from Peter. Thank you. Tracy, could we please have a roll call vote?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution is passed by a vote of 5-0. Thank you. Item 3 of new business, review and possible action to amend salary schedule and approve adjustment to the general manager's compensation.
I'm going to ask Christopher to present this item.
Okay,
Good evening, President Boy and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to present this item before you tonight. The item tonight is consistent with the general manager's employment agreement that the board reviews the general manager's performance once a year. And as part of that process, if the board finds the performance to be satisfactory, the general manager under the agreement would also be entitled to certain compensation adjustments. And the items before you tonight would be for the board to consider those adjustments. The financial impact are highlighted in the written materials that are provided to both the board and members of the public. There's also and I do have to trouble the president that before the board considers and formally votes on this item to read a very long and boring script that lawyers write up, but that is to comply with California Government Code Section 54953, subsection C3, with regards to executive compensation. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have, and happy to, again, answer any questions. Thank you.
okay, I will begin. My instructions are to be read aloud by board president prior to approval of the item. Okay, here we go. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953C3, I am providing an oral summary of the recommended action. The item before the board tonight is to amend the salary schedule and approve adjustment to the general manager's compensation. The recommended action is to amend the general manager's annual salary and set the new salary at $229,627 effective January 1, 2022. The total annual salary increase is $9,349 from the prior year's salary. This action item will also authorize a one-time contribution of $6,000 to the general manager's deferred comp pursuant to Section 8 of the employment contract, and a one-time cash payment of $15,000 in recognition of the general manager's continued performance. Additional compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits to the general manager also includes the following: PARS contribution in the amount of $16,097, 457 retirement plan contribution in the amount of $16,074, health coverage including dental, vision, and life in the amount of $28,802, wellness program in the amount of $300. Additional information is set forth in the agenda report and resolution associated with this agenda item. Copies of the agenda report and related documents have been distributed to all board members and are also available for members of the public and will be incorporated into the minutes of tonight's meeting. Are there any questions from the board or members of, I think there's a missing word, members of the audience before the board considers the item before us? So I'm looking for hands, questions, comments. Seeing none, let's take this to the board for consideration. Any further discussion, or do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to make that amendment.
Second.
So motion by Peter, second by Rick. Tracy, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay, the amendment is approved by a vote of 5-0. Let's go to reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side. Catherine did not attend, so I will look to Rick, and I also attended, so I may weigh in.
You got me here.
Let me just very quickly tell you what. Let's go on to the next one, and Rick and I will pull up the agenda and refresh our memory. Do we have anyone who can speak to the Mid-Coast Council tonight? If not, let's, Rick, I'll keep looking it up. How about you give us something on CSDA or LAFCO?
CSDA has not met. Not sure what's happened there. I'll try to find out why we're not meeting anymore. LAFCO, we had a legislative committee meeting, which was very interesting. Lots of different items. There's several that are on the watch list that we I got a note from Rob Bertoli, who's the, I guess, the acting person. He said they have so much on the agenda that we're going to have a meeting every month for the next 3 months instead of every other month. So I look forward to lots of meetings. Other than that, there's just a lot of things they're going to watch legislation as it goes through. The biggest item was they have kind of the LAFCO Bible, I'm going to call it, that puts out what LAFCO thinks it stands for. And we have been asked to support that, which we obviously will. So other than that, that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you. I just, as an aside, I was pretty sure LAFCO stood for Local Agency Formation Commission, but if we need to publish it as a book. Let's see, on the SAM agenda, let's see, it was a very collegial meeting. It was so collegial. I don't know what all the hubbub has been about. It was very pleasant. Let's see. We had a presentation by the San Mateo Resource Conservation District on the first flush effort. Every year and for many years, they do quite a lot of work on the first rain to see what's happening and what's washing through the streams in the very first rain. And so once again, they did that, and they came up with a great deal of very interesting information. It's great to see they're able to collect trend data over a long period of time and identify some hot spots. And they affirm that certain hot spots, they do follow-up work, and they may go talk to people in the area, businesses in the area or whatnot, to see if there's something going on that they can assist with. They have a great deal of expertise on doing things like keeping things out of the streams that don't need to be there. It was a very interesting report, and I don't want to go into more detail than that, but the video is online and the agenda is online at samcleanswater.org, samcleanswater.org. And the presentation, just flipping through the slides, super interesting. It's great to see, and we're always very happy to see the Resource Conservation District at the SAM meeting. And at SAM and the member agencies, we've been supportive of their work for as many years as I can remember, and it's always very good work. And it's a real positive. Provides some good positive impact all along the coastline, all the way up into Pacifica and all the way down, sometimes as far as La Honda or Pescadero. All right, the next thing that we had an update on the fats, oils, and grease, fats, oils, and grease inspections at GCSD and MWSD in the two respective districts. The consultant who had conducted the inspections brought us a very detailed report, some good high-level summaries, showed us pictures that read the RCD report. You may need to avert your eyes on the looking at a grease trap if you haven't seen it before. They do important work. They're not pretty, but they do very important work. And it was great to see the inspections happening, the interactions with the business owners, the conversations, the kind of helpful correcting behaviors that come out of it. Keeping fat soils and grease out of the sewer system spares us clogs and spills and hazards in our environment. So it's a very important program. Fat, oil, and grease build up slowly, but can make a terrible mess that Tim and the crew have to deal with. And so do it for Tim and the crew, clean your grease trap, work with the inspectors. This is good for everybody. Then there was a side letter agreement with the Local 39 about vacation accruals and administrative leave. This went through without a hitch. And then adjusting a one-time cash out for some leave balances for the unrepresented employees. And then got a really interesting attorney's report. I think following AB 361 was really interesting, talking about the PFAS pollution that we get from things like Scotchgard and other things that get into the waste stream. It's pretty informative stuff. So if any of this sounds interesting, samcleanswater.org. The staff reports are all there, and it's good reading. So with that, let's go back to Rick. Did that bring anything to mind, or shall we move on?
I think that was fine. I think that the last two items you mentioned were all COVID related. People couldn't use up vacation because they were understaffed and sick.
Right.
So we compensated them and allowed them to sell back vacation, which was only fair.
Yeah. And we'll say it again. I mean, I think we said it there, but the work they do is very hard under some very trying circumstances ordinarily, and then you add COVID on top of it. This is something we're really grateful for the crew at SAM and their hard work, often in the cold and dark and rain. And I don't know if people in the comfort of their own home watching Netflix have any idea what's going on out in the rain sometimes, but the crew, Tim's home watching Netflix, right? Or you got, no, he's out there with the crew too. And it is wet and windy and cold a lot of that time, because that's the typical time when people have to respond. So just say it for everybody watching, we're really grateful for the work they do. And I'm glad that we can attend to matters like this. Let's move on to attorney's report. Christine, do you have anything for us?
I do not. Thank you, President Boyd.
Okay. And then I'm just looking ahead to the closed session to see if we need to make any announcements. We will need to make that one announcement.
Director's reports, I'd like to make.
Yeah. No, I'm just looking ahead while I had Christine.
Okay.
Let's look at director's reports.
Thank you.
Anyone? Catherine?
Yes. I just received for my office in Pacifica a summary of proposed charges for the sewer rate. And for the next 5 years, it will be going up 3.5% a year, which I think will have to be made up later, but I don't know. I'm not guessing. The rate will go for, the minimum annual rate will go from $903.06 to $1,072.55 in 26-27. Costs are going up, and we need to do this. There was an interesting section on strength multipliers, which for those of you who are curious, it means that there's kind of a zero base, and if less stuff gets washed down, you have that's the basic. Car washes have a 0.09. I'm sorry, a 0.9 strength factor, as do gymnasiums. The part that got me very interested was restaurants without functioning grease traps have a higher multiplier of 1.8 than restaurants with functioning grease traps. And I don't know if this is something Montara wants to look at or not. All others are 1.0. So laundromats, because it's just mostly lint and soapy water that comes down, have a strength factor of 0.75. But again, restaurants without functioning grease traps are at the highest of almost double of 1.8 of what the all other rates are. There are some other parts of interest. The other part that we may want to consider is for Pacifica, it says the proposed method, and they have a special water district, but they are the sewer provider. The proposed method for estimating water consumption for single family and multiple family residents is to multiply the total water consumption during the billing year by 90%. So it's assumed 10% is going elsewhere, but 90%. This proposed, and this is their proposal, it would replace the current method of using wet months as a factor for the residential calculation. So we may want to get the staff report that Pacifica did and see if it has any relationship to what we would like to do. Thank you.
Very interesting. Thank you. Do we have any other director reports? Not seeing any. General manager's report.
Yeah, just a reminder that I will be out of the office all of next week. So we will have a second meeting this month, but it's going to be, I think we're going to have a pretty short meeting. That's what I'm trying to say. There is little time to prepare anything for the second meeting. Thank you.
You know, I just have to say, anytime anyone suggests we're going to have a short meeting, we usually regret the prognostication, but let's hope you're right. Okay, let's see. We have, do you have anything that we want to capture for our future agenda? You can always reach out to Clemens or myself and we can get those teed up. We are going to take a recess and then reconvene in closed session. So before we go, I want to tell you, we'll be looking at existing litigation on two matters. One, the City of Half Moon Bay lawsuit against Granada and Montara. The other, Sabrina Brennan versus the district. That's the California Voting Rights Act issue. And then anticipated litigation, two potential cases, and that's significant exposure to litigation, and then initiation of litigation, one potential case, and then a conference with real property negotiators under Government Code 54956.8 on the property 771 Rivera Road, Montara, California. And let me give it to Christine, who's going to tell us.
Yes, I am going to tell you that Director Lohman will be recusing himself from and not attending the closed session item pertaining to the real property negotiations due to a conflict of interest under Government Code Section 870-100. Or 87-100, excuse me, and he will disengage from Zoom. And as to one of the significant exposure to litigation items, one potential case per Government Code 54956.9 subdivision E2, the board is meeting only to decide whether a point has been reached where, in the opinion of the board, on advice of legal counsel, based on existing facts and circumstances, there is a significant exposure to litigation against the district. And those are my two announcements.
Okay. I just want to say that the conflict of interest that I understand Director Lohman has on the last item is he just lives too darn close to that property, so he doesn't get to participate.
And
that's the way that, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but for your information, in terms of the requirements to report the recusal under the government code. I don't know why it is for real property negotiations, but there's no requirement to state what the conflict of interest is when it's a real property 500 feet. I don't know why.
There's no requirement, but I know people give Rick the side eye lately, and I just want him to know he made a great buying decision. I love where he lives, but it's close enough to the property that under the code he cannot sit on the item. And we know how much he hates having to leave the meetings early, but that's what he has to do every time we talk about this.
It's tough.
So if we will report out after we come out of closed session if we take any reportable action, and then that would be in the minutes next time. So with that, we are going to take a recess. Let's reconvene at 8:17. And I'd like to thank members of the public for joining. We always appreciate the participation and welcome your comments and your criticisms and your complaints and your attention. And please dig into the occasional staff report and enjoy the presentations. Thank you again for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Good to see you, Jim.
Night, guys.
Hey, guys.
Night.
Thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, directors. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, Christopher.